Now, the security and operational triad. We are familiar with the CIA already, and on the right we can see another triad, which is the operational triad: functionality, security, and performance. A dot is going to appear now, which signifies the balance of security. If you look at this diagram, it looks like security is at the center, right? Which is nice, but in reality, it's difficult to achieve a perfect balance between functionality, performance, and security. Again, in reality, it's difficult to maintain balance between functionality, performance, and security. So if you look at this dot, look at my cursor, right? If this dot moves towards functionality, it moves farther away from performance. If this dot moves towards security, it moves farther away from performance and functionality. If this dot moves towards performance, it moves farther away from security and functionality, right? But then you can tilt it more towards this side, so it stays between functionality and performance, or you can tilt it more towards this side, so it stays between security and performance, or you can tilt it more towards this side, so it stays between functionality and security. But the truth is, something always has to give, right? Something always has to give. What you need to aim for is this still usable, and is it secure enough, considering the sensitivity of the data that we are processing, considering the criticality of the system in question, considering the kind of customers we are servicing or the sector that we operate in. If you're working in health sector, of course, it's a tricky one to balance, but the policy in your organization will let you know what you need to do and how much of security you need, how much performance you need, how much functionality you need. Now, if you tighten the security too much and you bring the security towards this place, you make it so tight, like you implement 5-factor authentication wherever you want to get that from. You want to add layered security, multiple layers of defense, and all the things that can affect performance, because every layer of security you add reduces some form of performance or some form of usability or functionality, right? So if you tighten the security too much, the system may become unusable, losing functionality. Also, it may become too slow or even not available anymore, taking away the performance drastically. And as much as you're trying to secure the system, if it's not usable and has very poor performance, that's also a form of non-availability, which is not one of the goals of security, right? Also, you need to be careful, because if you tilt this dot towards functionality or usability too much, you're sacrificing a lot of security, which you don't want to do, because yes, the users are going to enjoy, they can install anything they like, they can just log in without entering a password, no multi-factor authentication, no VPNs to connect back to your organization, and so on. Yes, they will be happy, but then your data is at risk, your systems are at risk, right? The system may also be fast, because they don't need to do extra logging in, no security, no encryption and decryption process involved. So yes, they're going to enjoy functionality and performance, but what about security? Yeah, so the data you're processing, the data on the systems also matter. So you need to consider that when implementing your security controls. As much as security is important for both data and systems, it's also important to remember that functionality and performance matter. And as much as functionality and performance are also crucial, it's important to remember the security of the data being processed. Because if you lose the data that you're supposed to guard properly, there is nothing functionality would be doing there. Functionality is useless, because what are they trying to access, right? If you lose security, right, and if your security becomes too loose and you lose data, right, or data gets encrypted through ransomware, functionality and performance are useless. In the same way, if you tighten security too much and you neglect functionality and performance, that's not supporting productivity of the business. So you want to find the perfect balance between the three of them, and how you can ensure CIA supports functionality, performance, and security, supporting the goals of the business. Remember strategic alignment.